All right, so now we have Best Actor, and the nominees are Bradley Cooper for Silver Linings Playbook, Daniel Day-Lewis for Lincoln, Hugh Jackman for Les Miserables, Joaquin Phoenix for The Master, and Denzel Washington for Flight. Um, Come on. Everyone knows that Daniel Day-Lewis is in a class of his own. I mean, honestly, and I don't mean this as any, like, I don't mean to be cynical or anything, but honestly, it's like, this is Daniel Day-Lewis and this is everybody else. Not to diminish what they did, but he's in a class on his own. He's on another level. I honestly think that Daniel Day-Lewis is an acting genius. He is one of my favorite actors of all time, and he knocked it out of the park with Lincoln. And I've talked about his performance a lot, but honestly, I could gush on and on about how good it was. But the one thing that I love so much about Daniel Day-Lewis and that I've seen from him in almost all his performances is that he's been able to kind of merge the idea of being theatrical and dramatic with kind of a realism and like something that is just very genuine and raw. And he did that in this performance because I feel like, I've seen there have been a lot of portrayals of Lincoln in the past in Hollywood, and this one to me was the most uh, it came to life the most for me, and it was the most kind of multidimensional. And with him, it's like he was able to really capture that physicality, but he 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 speaks the dialogue as if it's Shakespeare and as if it's they always say that with acting, if you can say something as though you're saying it for the very first time, you know that you're really a great actor, and that's what he does. Whenever he tells the stories as Lincoln, it's like you're just sitting there and you're listening to every syllable, everything he says because it's so almost delectable in a way, I guess you could say. It's poetic, it's Shakespearean, it's everything. So he should win, and he will win. So that's all I can really say about that. But I'll talk about the other nominees just because that's only fair. Bradley Cooper, Silver Linings Playbook. I'm not a huge fan of Bradley Cooper, but I have to say that this is the first time I've seen him in a role where I felt like he was really able to show his range and really show that he is more than just a movie star. He really is an actor. And it was good because, a lot of these actors in the film Silver Linings Playbook had to really kind of strip away all of that kind of celebrity facade that they all have, and they just got into the dialogue and the meat of it. And again, I said that I thought that the ensemble was better than the material, and I agree. When it comes to Bradley Cooper's character, to me it felt like he was reciting things from a sort of like a playbill, a student exercise drama book or something like that. But at the same time, he really did kind of breathe life into it. So that's a good thing. So I was glad to see him nominated. You also have Hugh Jackman for Les Miserables. I mean, I knew that he was going to get nominated. I mean, everyone knew he was going to get nominated, but it kind of makes me sad because I think that there were a lot more performances out there that were more deserving, more interesting characters, just better performances. And again, I don't have a problem with Hugh Jackman. I thought that he did what he could with the material he was given. I mean, he gave a nice warmth to Jean Valjean that I hadn't seen, and I said that in my review. And he really he did everything he had to do for the Oscar bait checklist, kind of like Anne Hathaway. He was crestfallen, he cried, he lost weight, he had to age, considerably throughout the film. He sings, he does everything. He does everything he can, but I don't think this is a nomination worthy performance personally, but I know people disagree with me. But Joaquin Phoenix for The Master. I would say that if Daniel Day Lewis was not in this category, I personally would have picked Joaquin Phoenix because I thought he gave a wonderful performance in The Master. He really did, almost on the level of Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mentioned how I thought the performance between the both of them, the way that they kind of the layers that come forth in the scenes between the two of them were some of the best scenes I've seen in forever. And Joaquin Phoenix is part of that. And a lot of people thought, not a lot of people, but a few people have complained that his performance was maybe a little bit too melodramatic, almost kind of kabuki like. But I think that's just a trademark of not Philip Seymour Hoffman, Paul Thomas Anderson. That's kind of a staple of kind of the type of work that he likes to see and the type of acting he likes in his films, similarly to Stanley Kubrick. So I don't mind that at all. I don't mind theatrical performances. And with Joaquin Phoenix, he was perhaps the most physical of anyone. I mean, he's this very, very almost alarmingly manic, psychotic character, but he's also a very sad character. And I felt like he completely internalized that in his performance, yet he was also very physical. So wonderful performance from him. But I was also really surprised that he was nominated because he said earlier in the year how he thought that the Academy Awards were pretty much pointless and that he didn't really care if he got nominated or not. And a lot of people thought that was disrespectful. Honestly, I applauded him. I mean, my hat's off to him because I totally agree with him. Everything he said, I'm like, he's right. The Academy is all about politics and it's a popularity contest. It's not about what really is the best. But at the same time, like, I thought that he was not going to get nominated because of that, but they still honored his performance, so that's good. And then there's Denzel Washington for Flight. I did not see Flight, and I really, really want to see it because I've heard it's really good. And I was this close to seeing it. I mean, I was at the theater, getting out of my car, walking towards the theater, and I got a call and I had to leave and I couldn't see it. But as soon as it comes out, I am going to rent it. But I've heard Denzel is great in it, so that's Best Actor. Daniel Day-Lewis will win, and he absolutely should. All right, so let's go on to Best Director. So we have the nominees, which are Michael Haneke, I don't know how to pronounce that, the director of Amour, Ang Lee for Life of Pi, David O. Russell for Silver Linings Playbook, Steven Spielberg for Lincoln, and Ben Zeitlin for Beasts of the Southern Wild. I think, honestly, that Steven Spielberg is going to be the one to win, and I think it was kind of given away because this category was actually very surprising when they when they released the nominations, just because I was almost positive that Catherine Bigelow would get nominated for Zero Dark 30, and I think she completely deserved to be nominated, but she wasn't. And also, um, Argo, Ben Affleck was not nominated either. And even though I wasn't crazy about Argo, I mean, I thought it was good, but I thought it was overrated. I was almost positive that they would give it to Ben Affleck. So, and they didn't. So right there, I think that Steven Spielberg's going to win it. And I can't disagree with that because Spielberg is a wonderful director, and he proved that he still has that passion and that ability to really move audiences, even with something that's a little bit out of his comfort zone. Uh, but I thought, Lincoln was a perfect marriage of acting, of brilliant writing. I think the writing is probably the best thing about it, and direction. But at the same time, I have to say, if there was any fault, any weaknesses in the film, it came from Spielberg's direction. At times, I thought it was just a tad sentimental, overly sentimental. And part of that is just because that's part of what Steven Spielberg is known for, the sentimentality and the heart. But sometimes I think it was a tad overplayed. So yeah, so I mean, although I really do appreciate what he did, at the same time, I don't know if I would actually choose him as my personal favorite. Ben Zeitlin as in Beasts of the Southern Wild, I thought what he did in terms of the direction, he really kind of infused the film with so much vibrance and energy. It just was really refreshing to see something like that. So I'm glad to see him nominated actually, and yeah, I mean, it's just I think what he did really was give kind of positive energy and like a hopefulness to the kind of apocalyptic symbolic films we've been seeing in the year of 2012. It was nice to see something that was hopeful rather than negative. So that was nice. David O. Russell, Silver Linings Playbook. I don't think he's going to win for this one. I mean, I think he might possibly have a chance, but I really don't think that this is his year. I thought actually The Fighter was a better film personally than Silver Linings Playbook. But David O. Russell is a very talented director, so I guess it's good to see him nominated, even though I wasn't a huge fan of the film. Michael Haneke, whatever. For Amour, again, I can't talk about it because I haven't seen it, but I'm sure this is a well-deserved nomination. But my choice would be, honestly, Ang Lee. Ang Lee for Life of Pi. And even though he's won before, I think that, I've said this before, that I absolutely love Ang Lee so much. He's one of my favorite working directors. And I think he honestly had the toughest job as a director for Life of Pi, because Life of Pi is probably the most ambitious, the most difficult to pull off, especially when the majority of the film takes place out on the water and it's just about a guy in a boat with a tiger. That's very, very difficult to be able to make multidimensional. And I think he really did capture the complexity, and he also married that with the visuals, which are absolutely stunning, and he created just a whimsical, spiritual experience. So I think he should win it, but again, I think that Steven Spielberg is the one that's going to take it. And finally, we are on to Best Picture. The nominees are Amour, Argo, Beasts of the Southern Wild, Django Unchained, Les Miserables, Life of Pi, Lincoln, Silver Linings Playbook, and Zero Dark 30. Again, I can't talk about it more because I haven't seen it, but I'm noticing a trend with Best Picture this year, which is very interesting. Lately, the Academy has been more interested in giving the Best Picture to like indie films, smaller films like The Hurt Locker or No Country for Old Men and things like that, The King's Speech. Um, and even last year, with The Artist, they gave it to a French film. A foreign film winning Best Picture is almost unheard of. A few years back, I would have thought they were kidding, but no, it actually happened. But this time, we're sort of returning to that old Hollywood style with the big, kind of the money makers are starting to come back, which is interesting. Um, and I think that's probably a better move for the Academy. I'm not saying that, you know, all these films necessarily deserve to be nominated, but, the more popular movies that are nominated, the more likely you are to have people actually watch the show. So I guess that's a good thing. But Argo, you know, I think this is a good movie. I was entertained by it, but I don't think it should be nominated for Best Picture. I mean, as I said, it was definitely in the style of those old films like Serpico or Dog Day Afternoon, Sidney Lumet style 70s films, but I don't think it was quite on that level. And while it was entertaining and at times well written, I thought that it just lacked, like I compare it to a film like Zero Dark 30 because, a lot of the same themes you see throughout. But with Zero Dark 30, that film was just on another level of just sophistication in terms of the writing. And it was more thought provoking and just complex. And I would much rather like I prefer to see a film like Zero Dark 30 on the list rather than Argo. And also I don't think Ben Affleck is a good actor and his character was just not very interesting to me. But again, Alan Arkin I think really was wonderful in it. So, whatever. But Beasts of the Southern Wild, I've said pretty much all I can say about that. I really love that movie. I was so happy to see it nominated. Django Unchained, you know, I can't say that I'm disappointed that this is nominated. It's just it's had people very split. There are people that absolutely love it, and there are people that just don't really like it at all. And I said in my review that I really don't like it, and it's true. I stand by that. I don't think this is one of Quentin's stronger works, but there are other people that think it's the best film of the year, and they've really kind of made their point very clear on why they do. So it's very subjective. I think it all comes down to, your personal taste. So but the thing is with Tarantino, I think his movies are just a little bit too outrageous for the Academy. A little bit they're just too weird for the Academy. Just like Paul Thomas Anderson films. They're just I don't think he'll ever win anything because they're just not ready for that sort of thing. They don't like progressive filmmaking. They like more traditional um, pieces of film. So, they like to tease Tarantino a lot by giving him nominations like with Pulp Fiction or Inglorious Bastards, but, I really don't see Django Unchained winning anything. Maybe screenplay might have a chance, but I don't know. And then we have Les Miserables, and this film just of all the nominees, like even the movies, there's some movies on here that I wasn't crazy about, but Les Miserables has absolutely no business being on this list at all. This movie to me is just the epitome of pretentious Academy Award bait. It's shameless Oscar plugging. It is, I mean, yeah, shameless is the best word I can think about to describe this film. It is all just contrived emotion all the time. I thought it was horribly directed, and the only reason it's nominated is because of its production value and because it made a lot of money, but it absolutely does not deserve to be on this list. Then you've got Life of Pi, and I am so glad to see Life of Pi getting recognition. And it's great because I've been telling so many people, go see Life of Pi. It's a really good movie. You don't know what you're missing, and it didn't make that much money. And every time I'm trying to promote that film, people are like, yeah, whatever. I'm not interested. But maybe the fact that it has, I think, 11 nominations, right behind Lincoln for having the most nominations of any film, maybe it'll cause more people to see it. And I really, really hope so. Yeah, happy for Ang Lee and everyone associated. And then there's Lincoln, which this is the movie that I think is going to win, and I think it should win. Um, that doesn't happen very often either. Rarely do I like a movie, or like rarely is my best picture of the year that I choose ever winning anything for best picture. So I'm really glad to see that. And I pretty much said all I can about Lincoln, how much I really, really love it. Even though it is flawed, to me, it is the best picture of the year, or of the movies that I've seen. So that's great. And if it wins, I would be more than happy. Silver Linings Playbook, again, I wasn't crazy about it, but I think it comes down to more of a taste thing. So, it's nominated, that's great, but it's not, I don't think it has a chance because the Academy doesn't really like to do comedy, and particularly dark comedy. It's just, they've always been kind of touchy on that sort of subject, and they don't know really how to honor it. So, yeah, doesn't really have a chance, I don't think. And then Zero Dark 30, this is the one film I thought that might have been the one to take down Lincoln and might win. But, the reason, the fact that Catherine Bigelow was not nominated for Best Director really does sort of take Zero Dark 30 out of the running. If you don't have your director nominated, rarely does it ever happen that um, something will win Best Picture and not win Best Director. So yeah, I thought that was the stiffest competition. But yeah, because of the change we've seen in the director category, I think really Lincoln is the one that's going to take it. And that's all the categories I have. I'm not going to really go into the other ones, but unless you have any questions about them. But yeah, so I will probably be tweeting throughout the Academy Awards ceremony, and also the Golden Globes are tonight. So I might, have a few tweets. So you can follow me on Twitter. The link is below. And thank you guys so much for listening. I may I may do like a post Academy Awards thoughts video, possibly. It just depends on how it goes. But anyway, you'll have to stay tuned. But anyway, thank you again for watching.